Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Plan Your Greatness, and I am your gracious host, Carlton Hamilton. And let's get started today. Today we are here, volume 15, chapter 9 of, let me get the book. This is it right here. This is what we're talking about. This is Plan Your Greatness. Oh, I'm sorry. How to Plan Your Greatness. This book is on Amazon. It's really cool because every month I get a little notice from Amazon. Well, there's some months where there were some months where there were no sales, but you know, every month or so I get a notice from Amazon saying, "Hey, you got some sales," and so I'll get a couple of shekels showing the sales, and if you go into the back office, you get to see where the book was purchased from. So the book is international. You know, most of the sales are domestic, but there have been some international. So that's really cool. So get your copy. If you want a signed copy, hit me in the DMs and we'll work out getting that to you. Of course, the book needs to come to me first. Then I sign it and I get it out to you. But yeah, it's on there. I'm updating it. Because I've said this before, I'm updating it because this book is about to be placed into some school systems. More specifically, these are schools that have like a separate school for some of the problem kids. You know, it's like an in-school suspension, but it's within the district. You know, that's a money grab, but I'm here to help. That, you know, I can talk to the kids about my story. So the book is going to be in some school districts, so we're working out the logistics of that. Also, the book is going to be in the criminal justice system. It's going to be in the juvenile justice system. It's going to be in the adult justice system. So right now, we're just working out the logistics of how it's going to be in there, and then how am I going to get in there, or how they're going to get me in there, so I can talk to the juveniles and the adults about making better decisions. Because the book has some, I didn't realize it as I was doing it, but the book has some exercises. So those exercises are going to be highlighted that I can talk about with the students. And so with that being said, we are on volume 15, chapter 9 of the book. This is called Open Letters. Now, this is a very powerful section. I'm going to be able to get through it pretty quickly, but this section, this chapter of the book, is one of the most powerful ones in the book because I write 3 letters. So it may be one of the shorter chapters, but it's very powerful. Now, first and foremost, I have to explain to you how I was inspired by that. I'm an avid reader. So one of the readers that I like reading, reading is James Baldwin. Now, those of you who know who James Baldwin, let's not get all lost in the sauce or lost in the weeds on his sexual orientation. It was well known, well documented that James Baldwin was gay as all get out. But one of the things that he said that you have to admire him, he didn't say it. I don't think I ever read a speech or watched a video where he spoke specifically about it, but he understood. He says, when I walk through the door, my gayness or my homosexuality does not go through the door first. What goes through the door first is I'm black. He said, so I have to first and foremost be cognizant that I am going to be seen and judged by my blackness before my gayness or homosexuality. So he stood 10 toes down speaking of the issues. He's like, you're not discriminating against me because I'm gay. He said, you're having a problem with me because I am exerting myself as a black person. I thought that was so powerful. So that just gives you a little bit of background on James Baldwin. Great writer. I mean, phenomenal books. The Fire Next Time and No Name in the Street are probably my favorite books. But what inspired me about this book, The Fire Next Time, I believe it was written in 1963, is that in the introduction or very early in the book, he writes like a letter, or he has this chapter dedicated to his nephew. And he is telling him all the things about the world. He said, everything that you're feeling and sensing about the world, it is true. You are a young black man about to enter into one of the most difficult places to walk as a young black man, and that is in America. And I agree with him. It's the most powerful, but at the same time, it is the most, man, what word am I looking for? It is the most powerful, but at the same time, it is the most challenging place for a black person to be. It has opportunities to do things, but there's certain ways to go about getting to that level in this country. Very powerful that he was making this observation to his nephew. So here I am, inspired by that, and I write these 3 letters. The first letter I write to my nephew. Now I don't really remember exactly why I put it in that order, but maybe it was because I wanted to save the one for last, is why I put it there. Is that the first one, I'm talking to my nephew. The second letter, I'm talking to my son. Now, the reason why I'm bringing these 2 together is I tell 2 different stories, but at the end, I sum it up and basically say that nobody wants to hear your story if it's just telling how you're a victim. And I say this to my kids. I said, complaints only state the obvious. You're given a story as a victim. Once you let everybody know how much you've been victimized, you need to turn right around and then show what you're going to do. You don't necessarily have to tell your nemesis or your antagonist or whoever you think is wrong in you. You don't have to tell them, but you need to tell yourself or the circle of people that you feel are all victimized. Y'all need to collectively get together and say, what is our plan of action? Because again, I tell my kids, I say, okay, complaints state the obvious. What you gonna do? What's your plan? If you don't have no plan, then basically all you're doing is complaining. And complaints don't do anything. They're just talking loud, saying nothing. Okay? So now, that's the theme of those first 2 letters, the one to my nephew and one to my son. Now the very last letter that I write it to my 15-year-old self. And I write it to myself at a moment that was so pivotal that as I think about it, I wish I had a little more mentorship at the time. Didn't have the greatest relationship with my mom and my dad at that time. So what happened was I got cut from the sophomore, basically JV basketball team. Clearly, I should have been placed on the team because if you go back to my freshman year, the way that they did it at my high school is they had 2 teams, 2 freshman teams, and 2 full-on teams, 2 12-man rosters. I wasn't good enough to start on the A team, so I was the next 5 best players. So I was the starting point guard on the B team. But what was happening is I was getting bigger and stronger. By the end of the season, I was challenging, because we would always practice against the A team, I was challenging the A players really for their spot, but I would always just go play with the B team. So by the end of the year, I was growing, getting stronger. I went to play baseball, but basketball was always my first love. So when it came time to try out for the team, the JV team, the sophomore team, I had grown 3 inches. I had grown from 5'6" to 5'9". I had gotten stronger. And clearly in tryouts, I was the best player on there. But I didn't have my academics together. The coach cut me. And if you know the history of the coach, Coach Tandy, his family was educators, big on education. So he blatantly told me, I couldn't put you on the team because your grades were bad. He was basically saying, you're good enough, but what would I look like, a person that stresses academics, and put you on the team? That's where the twist comes in. I was so devastated by that, I didn't tell anybody. Didn't tell my mom, didn't tell my dad. So I just basically suffered in silence. Now, this letter, having had all this life experience and going back and talk to myself, I basically said, turn around, go into that coach's office and tell him you really want to be on the team and these are the things that you're willing to do, or whatever it is that you want me to do, I will do it to be on the team. Now, again, I didn't have the greatest relationship with my dad, so even if I had told my dad, I don't think my dad would have known what to do. Now, fault me for not giving him that chance to speak up. But if it was me, I would have told my son. I would have said, hey, What do you want? Do you really want to be on the basketball team? Okay, so let's me and you go in there and let's talk to the coach. We're going to put down a plan. So what was the reason why you weren't picked on the team? Oh, the grades. Okay, so you messed off on your grades. All right, so what we're going to talk about getting these grades on par. So you're going to tell that coach, you're going to get your grades up to par. You're going to get it up to whatever standard that he sets for you. You're going to run and do whatever running and conditioning that you need to. You're going to make sure that you're going to be at practice. You're going to be on time. If the coach even needs to announce to the team that, hey, Carlton was not on the team because of this. And these are the things that he's going to do to get himself back on the team. If you guys want to help him with that, let's do it. Just very much like the movie Coach Carter, when the guy wanted to get back on the team. So that would have been a great opportunity for my dad and I to work together and say, hey, look, you want to be on that team? Get your grades together. Get your conditioning together. And I'm going to be here to hold you accountable. We're going to do this? All right, we're going to do this together. And so in that letter to myself, I was just saying, hey, you're going to end up having this phenomenal life. You're going to have some ups and downs, but here you are now. Business owner, college graduate, you got to play professional baseball, you got to travel the world, you got to meet beautiful people, beautiful women. You've got to do some things that a lot of people, even with more money than you, didn't get a chance to do. But I'm saying now, we can change the trajectory of this path, and that would change everything else, like the movie Mr. Destiny, by going in there and fighting for what you want. All right? And so that has inspired me as far as a book that I'm writing right now, that I'm asking people, what would you tell your 18-year-old self? Because now I'm imagining what would I tell my 15-year-old self, and I already know now what I would say, and I also know what I would say to my 18-year-old self. And I challenge all of you that if you have a moment, write a letter to yourself. At the most pivotal time in your life, write that letter back to yourself to say, hey, look, I'm coming back to give you some advice. Write a letter to your son, whether they're doing all the things that you want them to do or they're off the rails. Write a letter to them and say, hey, look, this is the advice I want to give you, because I know I may not know everything, but I believe I can give you some advice to help you with what you're going through now. And if they're doing great things, your son or daughter, this is a great opportunity to write them a letter and say, hey, I love you. You're doing great things. I just want to let you know I'm very proud of you. I see great things for you. And I just wanted to let you know that I'm here if you need any help. Again, I may not know everything, but I'm at least here to help you, answer some questions. And I believe if you take that mindset, which I've been growing and learning, helping my son, helping my daughter with their lives, is that if you take this time, because those letters can be very, very powerful. That they actually were therapeutic for me. That if you do that, believe me, you are on the path to planning your greatness. All right? I'm going to leave you with what I leave you with every time that I'm on here, and that is plan your greatness. You know why? Because no one else will. I'll see you all next time.